right, here we go. Always checking to see if the audio works. Guys, good to see ya. Good to be on here. Got my son in the next room making sure I have audio before we get going. We're good. All right. I wanted to tell you, the Clarks are well. Lots going on. It's been a full few weeks, but I'm still in the middle of this campaign, pre-sales for my new book, Leaving and Finding Jesus, and wanted to read another section for you here. And the pre-sales is going to go for the next 6 months, but the sooner you buy a copy, the more I know what I need to do timeline-wise. Excited about this book. This particular piece that I'm going to be writing is on the measureless nature of the love of God, that we live in the finite thinking, we live in the finite context, we live in the context of measurements, but God is love, and love is a measureless revelation. I don't know if you've thought about it, but right now while you're watching this, you're also seated with Christ in heavenly places. That's outside of time and space, if you think about it. You are actually here listening, and you're also in the cloud of witnesses cheering yourself on, because that's the nature of love. Love has no beginning and no end. Time is actually not God. Love is. Anyway, I get a little heady in some of the stuff, but not on this one. I just want to read this to you. How much faith do we need? This is in my book, Leaving and Finding Jesus. Jesus' face was fiery, magnificent, his union with his Father on display. And James and John were in awe, Peter too. But Peter was a man of action. So while the cloud of God's glorious oneness enveloped them, Peter couldn't help but throw out ideas regarding things he could build. He was in the middle of suggesting shelters when a thunderous voice interrupted him. "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." This was the second time the Father spoke those beautiful words over Jesus so all in proximity could hear. This time Jesus was atop a mountain with Peter, James, and John, and also Moses and Elijah were there. And this time Jesus was transfigured, transformed, his face shining like the sun. Meanwhile, a crowd had gathered around the disciples who'd been left at the base of the mountain. The crowd was comprised of the needy, lost, and desperate, those who hoped that the boys, in the absence of Jesus, could provide some freedom from the oppressions of their cruel, sin-conscious world. And the disciples did their best. But they were bewildered, ineffectual, and short on power. Short on power. I grew up in the charismatic church. Power. I've been chasing it my whole life. Always short on power. And it's no different for these fellas. Short on power. We know this because when Jesus came down the mountain, he was met by a distraught father who knelt before him. "Lord, have mercy on my son," he said. "He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him." This is in Matthew 17. And Jesus, one with the Father, intimate with Holy Spirit, on his way to reconciling the world to himself, heartbroken with the people's slave-like devotion to a transactional way of thinking, said, "You unbelieving and perverse generation, no sense of God, no focus to your lives. How long shall I stay with you? How many times do I have to go over these things?" This is Matthew 17, if you want to look it up. This was a rebuke, but this was not the kind of rebuke that was top down. This was a rebuke of Jesus, heartbroken over the lost reality, the paradigm that so many were entrapped within. The inability to know God, to be close to God, to be one with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Then Jesus rebuked the demon, and the boy was healed. And it was simple. This display of power was simple, immediate. It was like turning on a light, and it was effective. Jesus got measurable results in a world desperate for measurable results. That's the reality. We live in a world defined by measurements, desperate for measurable results. Later, when the disciples, excuse me, later when the disciples were alone with Jesus, they asked, why couldn't we drive it out? Essentially, why couldn't we do what you did? And Jesus answered, it's because you have so little faith. And at first read, in a world defined by measurements, that statement makes sense. It did to me my whole life. If you were to ask me why your car stalled 100 miles from home and I said it's because you have so little gas, you would think, okay, so I just need more gas. We read it's because you have so little faith, and our minds naturally form the question. So in a measurement world, how much faith do we need? What is the measurement? Good news. Jesus tells us. Even better news, it makes absolutely no sense. Jesus continues, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing. This is amazing. Talking about power now, right? The power I've chased my whole life. Movement after movement after movement. Never able to actually to live like Jesus while chasing the power of God. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a powerful thing. We need effective prayers. We need powerful prayers. So I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but I'm telling you that I was chasing something and you can't get there from the paradigm I was operating in. So Jesus says nothing. Here's the part. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing, here it is, nothing will be impossible for you. Nothing will be impossible for you. That's the verse. I read it my whole life. It's Matthew 17, this whole section, 14 through 21. So, how much gas do I need to drive the 100 miles home, you ask? Oh, just a thimbleful, I say. And then, while you look at me confused, I continue with grandiose claims of nonsense. If you had just a thimbleful of gas, you could fly your car to the Dagobah system and back. Did you know the scanning transmission electron holography, let me try this again. Did you know the scanning transmission electron holography microscope stands 15 feet tall and weighs 1,400 pounds? It's in the west coast of Canada. Did you know it can image at an unprocessed resolution of 35 trillionths of a meter? Yeah. Making it more powerful than any other microscope in the world. It's powerful. 35 trillionths of a meter. That's the size and power of the microscope needed to quantify my faith in comparison with God's. He's the creator, I'm the created. So forget moving mountains. I couldn't even Luke Skywalker a rock with the measure of my faith. Thankfully, Jesus wasn't really talking about measurements, though. He never really is. That's because God is love, and love is measureless. We can't quantify it. We can't do the math because love has no beginning and no end. We are invited to be filled to the measure of the fullness of love, God, only to discover God. Love has the ability to do immeasurably beyond all we can ask or imagine. That's Ephesians 3, 16 through 19. Love is a relationship. It's a relationship. God is a relational God. Love is a relationship, and Jesus was addressing a transactional mind. He was addressing a transactional mind with a relational revelation. He was addressing measurements with the measureless. He was revealing the truth wrapped in the mystery of measureless love. Jesus wasn't being difficult. He wasn't suggesting faith was measurable and we could never have enough, which is how I've lived the first 2/3 of my life. He was saying faith is measureless. It's a measureless revelation, and we are invited to become one with him. Jesus wasn't talking about the size of our faith. He was revealing the nature of intimacy. He was revealing the nature of his own intimacy as well. When he came down the mountain, and it was no thing to cast the demon out, to heal the boy. It was a revelation of the nature of his oneness, of his intimacy. Jesus wasn't being difficult. He was speaking to us in the context of our understanding. He wasn't being difficult. He was not suggesting faith was measurable and we could never have enough. He was saying faith is a measureless revelation and we are invited to become one with him. Jesus wasn't talking about the size of our faith. He was revealing the nature of intimacy. He was speaking to space and time outside of space and time. He was addressing a finite way of thinking from an infinite revelation, love. Jesus was revealing his intimacy with his Father, his oneness and union with Holy Spirit. He was using the words of our understanding to invite us to know a love beyond understanding. He was speaking to us in the language of our understanding with the measureless language that we were born again to rediscover. By the way, that's always how God speaks to us. Since the very beginning, that's how God has always spoken to us. He speaks to us in the language of our understanding from the measureless. He speaks to us in the context of measurements from the measureless. That's what love is. That's the nature of love, to communicate at the level of our understanding and ability in order to increase our capacity to understand and experience knowing. The kind of knowing that is the burning within you. Didn't our hearts burn when he spoke to us on the road? It's the kind of knowing that starts here and this catches up. He speaks to us. He communicates at the level of our understanding and ability in order to increase our capacity to understand and experience knowing. And nothing is impossible for the person that knows this intimacy, this union, this love, this faith. Nothing. The power I've been chasing is within me, and I'm awakening to it. It's within you, and you're awakening to it. The impossible is simple. It's like turning on a light. Love, sovereignly given and received. Sovereignty is revealed perfectly in Jesus on a cross, reconciling the world to himself and winning all of us to him. Love, sovereignly given. When we partake and participate in love, we partake and we participate in sovereignty. Love wins. It's the title of a book, but it's the truth. Good book. I wish I had the title. Love, sovereignly given and received and given and received and given and received. We love because he first loved, we love. Because he first loved, we love. Because he first loved, we love. That's in John 4:19 with a little bit of Jason. In love, every impossibility is possible. This is the invitation. The thing I've wanted my whole life, the burning, the power, the authority to speak to the broken places and see them made whole. That is the desire of every believer. We have been created to live with an appetite for the miraculous. But we can't get there in the paradigm of measurements. You have to get there in the measureless sovereignty of his love. And it's about receiving and giving and always receiving first. We love because he first loved. Any other loving we do is directly connected to the love we first received and become more aware of and awakened to over and over and over again. In love, every impossibility is possible. Jesus lived heaven on earth, the kingdom at hand, but more to the point, and more to the point of what I'm writing today. I've written a whole lot about the kingdom at hand, but what I'm writing about today is the kingdom within. You can look at Mark 1:15 for the kingdom at hand, but Luke 17:20, the kingdom's within. Faith, an infinite universe in a mustard seed. I'm going to stop there. This is what I'm writing. This is what I'm running at. I'm really excited about it. Life has been full, so I have a campaign. I'm doing pre-sales. I'm not doing a really good job at pre-selling. It's not my grace or gifting, and I'm doing my best to remind you all that I'm working on a book, and you're more than welcome to partner with me in purchasing it, pre-purchasing a copy or 5 or 10 or 100 of them. And that'll help me set some deadlines and help me and help me print enough copies and get them into hands. So, guys, he loves you today. It's a good day to be loved by God. It's a good day. And happy birthday to my son, Ethan. Man, 20 years, son. I absolutely love you, adore you. Happy birthday. Love you guys. I'll be back in touch. If you want to check out the book, you can go to afamilystory.org. And there's a pre-sale campaign going right now on Indiegogo. And there's links from there. God bless.